I'm Tamika D. Mallory.
And it's your boy Mysonne, the General.
We are your host of TMI.
Tamika and Mysonne's information, truth, motivation, and inspiration.
New name, new energy, but
same old us.
What's up, folks? What's up, my son Lennon?
How are you?
My son, the General.
How are you today?
I'm doing good. It's summer's approaching.
Summer's approaching.
But the weather is bugged out.
The weather is very amazing.
Oh, is it amazing?
Yes, because one day you wear shorts and then the next day you got to wear a snorkel.
What is
very,
a snorkel?
very strange.
What is a snorkel?
Oh, you don't know what a snorkel is?
Is that a coat?
Yeah, it's like a big coat. The old school.
Okay.
You got to be a little older to understand a snorkel. Back in the days, we wore the snorkels.
So it's not you being very extreme, but it is cooler, very cool.
No, but I'm saying, so listen, I took my son to soccer practice, and when we got out there, it was like 60 degrees, 70 degrees. He's like, oh, Dad, I got my shorts, because Keston loves to wear shorts all the time. Keston wakes up, and he grabs his phone, and he says, Dad, the weather is 75 degrees today. Can I wear shorts? And that's what he does. He wants to be able to wear shorts. He plays soccer, so every time he goes to the gym, he wants to have his soccer clothes. This is his thing. He makes sure he puts his soccer clothes in. So he went to practice. Now, I done told him, because he always gets this little sick. He gets this little cough when he gets cold. I'm like, Keston, don't go to practice without your scarf on. Don't make sure you got your little scully on. Make sure you got a hoodie on, something. He was like, all right, Dad. So he went out, and it was 60. He's like, it's not that cold. About 20 minutes later, he was coming back like this. My hands are freezing.
The weather changes.
My hands are freezing, and it was like, and it's just seeing the weather change, and it was like in 10 minutes, it just went from
it does.
Really, it was like 80, and it was like 80 something degrees.
No, it was. You said 60, then you went to 70, and now 80, you at 80.
No, the beginning of the day, it had started out at 80 degrees. It had dropped to like 60, probably like 70 something degrees, and by the end of the day, it had dropped to 50, because it was like it's supposed to be 40 or 50 the next day. So it was really weird to see and it's my birthday month. You know,
so what is that?
Birthday. It's my birthday. You know, Taurus rule. Shout out to all the Taurus, man. Even though it's past my birthday, but us Taurus, we celebrate all May.
Oh,
we know that y'all Gemini sneak in at the end, but for the most part, Taurus has got all May. So
this is so new. All the years I've known you, I have never heard you talk about birthday the way that no, not birthday. Yes, I know you talk about your birthday. Taurus.
I don't know why you haven't.
I just haven't.
I don't think you've been paying attention, because I am unapologetically a Taurus.
Okay.
I'm just keeping it 100.
And you know what?
I'm going to keep it
Happy
above.
Taurus month.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
I'm just going to leave it there.
We truly appreciate that.
So my thought of the day today. I have people who contact me all the time looking for lawyers or looking for legal help. And one area that's really concerning is people who are starting new businesses. There's so many new businesses and people online. And I really, really am concerned. Being a person who's had two businesses, one, it wasn't so much that it failed, but I closed it. And then now another business that I've had for many years, more than a decade, and I know how hard it is. I know how difficult it is to keep up with taxes. Like I had accountants working with me that weren't that great at one point, and I also didn't know certain things, so I made a lot of mistakes, and I still to this day am making sure that all my things are cleaned up and straightened out and just good, right? I finally have gotten to the point where my credit is good and I don't have all types of outstanding things. But again, with business, it's still something that I've had to learn, and I am still learning. So when I see all these people popping up with they're selling a shirt and selling a thing and selling a lash and selling a shoe and selling this and that, and they, hoodies, hats, and blah, 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 and other services that they provide, and they're promoting it on social media, which means that the man, whoever the man may be, well, the man being the IRS and other institutions that are responsible for monitoring your money in and out. Mm-hmm. People are taking Cash App payments, whatever, however, Venmo, Cash App, whatever. and I don't know how it's being recorded, and
Mm.
also where the legal advice is coming from for a small business owner or somebody who's just starting. They pressed up 500 t-shirts, maybe just 50 t-shirts, and they trying to hustle them off, shipping, packaging, doing all the things that they need to do to try to build a business with not a lot of money to pay for lawyers. I just am trying to figure out, and maybe there are people out there who know the answer to this. Where are you supposed to go for support, right?
Mm.
And do people realize all the shit that you can get yourself into when you are taking money? And whether it doesn't matter, as long as it went through a Cash App or a PayPal or a Venmo, there is a record that you got paid for
Yeah,
a
now it is.
service.
Now it is. I think it just recently started like a couple because before it used to be you could just transfer money on there and it wasn't really
Monitored,
monitored. But
yeah.
now they
They
have you
send
gotta
you
they send you IRS, they send
what
you
do you call it,
W two,
1099?
1099. Yeah. So I think moving forward, people have to be very very aware of the way they do business, especially online, because they're monitoring everything at this point. You know the hustle out your trunk. You better stay in your trunk because the internet is not your trunk.
Right. Cash is a whole different thing,
Cash
even
is king.
though, well, but even with the cash situation, right? One, like if you are a hairstylist, makeup artist, barber, or whatever, and somebody is getting a service from you regularly, not they just came to you one time, but they're getting a service from you regularly, you might have a situation where that person
So
wants
wants to
to
write it
to
off as
write off that you do my hair, you do my
well.
my
That thing
nails.
is, that person has to. At that point, you have to provide receipts. You have to do certain
Well,
things.
sometimes I'm gonna tell you what the receipt is. I found this out. The receipt is if I'm texting you and saying, "Can you do my such and such on such and such day?" and you say yes, and it's $400 or $300 or $200, and I say okay, and it is assumed that I actually got the service,
But why
right?
is it assumed?
Well, because the many different reasons. Thank you. Maybe I put my nails on social media. Maybe I tagged you and said, "Look at my beat. My face is looking good." Like there are ways that
But
people
then
can
how do you,
prove.
unless they put the amount inside it?
In the
Unless,
text, I text with different individuals, and I say, especially if I'm going to a different state, right? And I need to get have a makeup artist. Most of the time, the conversation happens via text message. Gonna come at 10 a.m. Here's my hotel. This is the amount. That's why I never put my room number in a text message. I always say, when you get here, call me. And I'll either go down, or at that point, if I trust you, I will let the front desk let you up. So it's so I have those security measures. But nonetheless, the text message becomes a record. Even in situations where I have a person providing a regular service for me, the text message is how I can count if what they're telling me are the real numbers. Because most of the time we've texted that, yeah, I'm coming 3 o'clock Tuesday, meet you here, do this, that, and the third. So what I'm saying is that a record is being kept. And I want people to hustle up and grind and do your thing. Because there are a lot of talented people out here. But the legal advice to be able to, the legal and the financial advice, I understand because I've been there. I've been in situations where I took cash or even got paid through this check or that check. And then when it came down to it and it was time for me to do my books and my records, I couldn't find this and didn't have the right filing system and didn't know. And then you end up, finding yourself in a crazy situation. And so all I'm saying is that, I know LegalZoom is out there where you can find lawyers on LegalZoom. And sometimes it's like free help until you pay a certain amount, and then that's when they get to the real stuff and really trying to help you. But then some people, they just talking to their friend who claims they know. I was talking to A.T. Mitchell, who's the anti-violence czar of New York City. He works with all of the anti-violence groups, the South Brother, and we were talking, and he was like, yeah, sometimes people I work with, they come to me talking about section so and so in the law book says this and that, and I read here and I know this and that, and he's like, all of that may be true, but he said he will hear people telling another client or another person, well, section 277 says you don't have to follow certain rules, and you have to do this, or you do it like this, or flip it, dip it, and do whatever. And he goes right behind them and say, look, yo, you better get you somebody that has actual like credentials. Not even because the person who's telling you don't know what they're talking about, because you got a lot of brothers and sisters, especially people who've been locked down for a long time, that know the law better than some of these lawyers. But the thing is, when something goes wrong, you need somebody to sue, blame, point to, and if it goes right, you want to be able to advise others. You could use this person, and they need credentials. So I've just been watching it developing, and I'm hoping that a lot of these people that's getting their information from at so financial literacy.com
Yeah, you got some legal people that can legitimize the situation.
back you up.
Yeah,
That's
and I heard today they still locking people up for PPP. I just heard they had a whole couple that was locked up for something they did for some loans today. I literally heard that on the radio today. So I'm like, they ain't stopping. Y'all better be careful, man, because Uncle Sam gonna get his money.
well, it's Uncle Sam and a couple uncles too. But again, I just want to say to the young ones, the new ones, the bomb ass people out there who are hustling and figuring it out, and entrepreneurship certainly the way. I'm not trying to dismiss and or make people feel like they can't do it, or make people feel like they shouldn't be in business for themselves. All I'm saying is, and I know it's expensive, because you go to LegalZoom, you got to pay. If you find a lawyer, a friend, they want to charge you, because they should, because certain people want to charge for their time and service. I get that. But you have to find some kind of way to get real credible support and help, so that your business, you don't start out in a situation where things go so well, and then the next thing you know, you end up owing. Trust someone who has been through it. I know what I'm talking about, not just because I think it, but I have actually lived through it. And it is no joke when you are now trying to catch up and fix things, after time has gone on and you just didn't know, because we don't always know. So that's what I think.
That's a Jew.
TMI today. Sometimes we don't have a TMI, but today we do. Something that is just too much. So, I'm all about like women stepping into ourselves and making sure that there's nothing about us that people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Breastfeeding was a thing. Remember, breastfeeding, women had to like go somewhere behind a curtain in a room in the back. You could never, even with a cover over your baby, sit in public and breastfeed, because that was like just
Taboo.
shunned upon. Oh my God, like people are, it's like disgusting, which by the way, the people who complained about it, they're the ones who were disgusting, because there's just nothing wrong with the natural process of feeding a baby. But there was a time when you could not even, you didn't even talk about that, right?
Like,
Nowadays, people whip their boob out.
Right outside.
Like,
bloop, bloop.
you see the
Baby
boob.
like this, bloop, bloop. Babies grab
they're
straight for
laughing.
it. They got the little hole in the thing. Like a lot of mothers I see now, they got the little thing, and the baby lay down, they go right for it. And they got a little cover in the, they not,
Usually they'll throw something over, but I've seen people who do not.
Don't care.
And especially in certain spaces that are very, very liberated. When you are already in the movement and you're already talking about the liberation of all people and women and this and that, and then, they're very open with it. And I recognize that as a Black woman who comes from a very conservative, not politically, but conservative, traditional, like all families are super like, yeah, you conservative. Okay, I got it. But then on this side, it's like, you're not conservative at all. But things like that, you don't show your breast out in public, right? So I came from that. So having to see people doing it all the time is like, woo, it's a shock. But it's cool. I get it. I'm with it. Let's feed the babies. I'm all for it. This right here, though, I feel like is a lot. So I was watching a concert, and it was basically white folks. So before people start being like, the women at this concert had their monthlies, their periods, and the blood was pouring down their legs. Which, by the way, just without even talking about what my real point is, or what the real point is, the idea that the blood is out and you are exposed enough that it could come down your legs, to me, is unsanitary. Right? Like, that's how I feel about it. But then I'm like, what is this a thing? So I started reading, and I see that in an attempt to liberate women from this idea that being on your period makes you nasty, because that's the kind of things, like, when you're on your period, you're dirty, you're untouchable, you shouldn't be out in public. That was an actual thing. I didn't know this. I literally found this out recently when I read this article, that having your period was seen as a time when you were supposed to be hidden away. Right? And we know that's not the case anymore, right? But it was. So in an attempt to destigmatize it and allow women their full autonomy, people have started saying, we're gonna talk about it. Janice and I were saying that we used to call it my little friend came, because you didn't even want to use the language. You didn't want your father to know that you were on your period. So your mom would say, don't talk about that, hide the stuff. Put all the even if it's wrapped up, put the pad in a bag, take it outside, don't even leave it in the garbage can. Like, it was just all these things that we have dealt with as women around this. But I totally get it, and I want women to be liberated, my son.
As they
But
should.
damn, they got the period pouring out in the bed. It's a lot. It's a lot. So is it liberation, or is it just too much going on?
I mean, as a woman, you can speak. I don't like to speak on women and their bodies in those situations. So I don't know if that's something you seem to believe that it's too much going on.
I do.
So
But I also
I
think
know
it's
that me personally just seeing that, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, I cut you off. Sorry. Go ahead.
I know me personally seeing that, I wouldn't be okay or happy to see it. I don't know what ritual. I don't know what's going on.
Ritual.
Maybe it's something that they got going on, but it's not okay for me. I don't want to see blood anywhere.
I'm just saying that the question is for me in this situation, are we going too far, or is this really something that allows people to feel like the stigmas and sort of like the suppression of women's rights, we're now being liberated from that? I don't know. I haven't figured it out. And I'm sure in the comment section, we will hear from folks who have different opinions about it. And I do feel like we should talk about these things, and that our sons should know more about periods, or I don't know if periods is still a good word to use, but I think that our sons should know more, our fathers should know more, and there should be more exposure. But I'm struggling with the idea that you have to actually see it. I think that is the part that might just be too much for me. So maybe I'm, uneducated. Maybe I need more information. Maybe I need to be, brought up to speed with the new world and whatever. But it's just
some shit just don't make sense. It don't make sense to me. It don't make sense to you.
No,
Then
I think it's TMI. It's TMI.
Definitely TMI.
Yeah.
we gonna let's leave this alone. We're gonna go into the guests now and talk about something else.
Yeah,
don't bring
we're
that.
not going.
I'm
not gonna bring it.
Please
up
don't
with
bring
the
that up.
So, in keeping with this series that we've been talking about relationships, it's been going really well. I mean, I've been receiving, I don't know about you, a lot of feedback from folks who are like, some people are DMing, some people are texting because they don't want to put their comments in the comment section. But they're like, well, this thing I agree with or I don't agree with. Because a lot of people are experiencing, I think especially after 40, people are experiencing like different things. They don't know if they should stay single. Should they? Kendra in the first episode, Kendra in the first episode said, people want to date folks that's just not that's not your person. Like you looking for, What they say, looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah,
That's a Jaheim song, right? Looking for love in all. Right. Okay.
I guess
Um,
so. Yeah.
yeah, it is. And so, you know, for her to say that, it's like it kind of put a lot of people in the perspective of maybe, she said the guy in the grocery store, the guy at your church, like that's your guy, but you looking for the dude that's like traveling to
Yeah.
Dubai and doing.
Unrealistic. It's just unrealistic, and it's painted by, especially I think, living in social media era where everybody's goals and this and that, and they looking at somebody else's life, and this is what they think their life is supposed to be, and sometimes you don't even realize what your life is because you're basing your life on 30 and 60 seconds of somebody else's life.
Right, and that's exactly what she
So that's what
said.
relationships have
You're
become in this era right now.
right. So it's been going well. And, obviously at this point, we've had what we consider to be sort of like the traditional for us, couple, two black folks. But I think that especially in my situation, I will be 44 years old in just a few weeks, unmarried, have dated, have, done the thing, long-term relationships, short-term relationships, no-term relationships. I've done all the things. And in conversations that I have with a lot of women, we talk about whether or not, as black women, we are really sort of shutting off our options because many of us, a lot of us, are unwilling to date outside of our race, and not just outside of our race, but specifically to date a white male. And so, today I think we are expanding and broadening the conversation to include a couple super cool couple, but they
Yep.
are an interracial couple. And today I'm excited to have Bryan and Ashley Chea. Bryan is affectionately known as Chea. He's gonna put his last name down no matter what.
Just
So
cheer.
he's just his
I
Chea.
love it.
So Ashley and Bryan have been together for 16 years, married for 9. They have 4 daughters from ages 2 all the way up to 15. They own a creative agency called Good Morning, Good Night. Ashley is a co host on a podcast. She is also the author of a children's book. And Bryan works in the insurance industry, but he also manages a music artist. And somehow they still homeschooling their children. And they have
Wow.
Ashley's using her website and her Instagram page, watermelon egg rolls, to educate and showcase what it means to be in an interracial relationship and debunking stereotypes. That's a lot of stuff,
That sounds like a
y'all.
superhero. Some superheroes right there, man.
That is a lot.
That's a
4
lot.
kids alone, you should be like doing nothing, and the world should be like paying anybody who has 4 kids just to homeschool and manage that. So, listen, welcome to TMI. Thank you so
Yes,
much for joining us today. We're excited for this conversation.
definitely.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
What watermelon egg rolls? Like, I want. What is that? Where did that name come from?
So for me, I wanted to create something that was kind of like tongue in cheek. Um, People have like stereotypes of what they think about Black people, Asian people. So I wanted to create a name that highlights that. And then when you obviously came to, because I started off as a blog. So then when you come to my blog, you can see like the truth behind the stereotype, that it's not anything. I don't even like watermelon, to be clear. I think it's absolutely disgusting.
Uh,
And I had to teach my husband how to make egg rolls. So it just shows you like these things that you think about people are not necessarily true. And that when I first started my blog, that's kind of like how I focused on it, was just really showing like I grew up in the hood, in the inner city, public housing. My mom made all of our food from scratch. She gardened, very much a hippie. And so that's how I was raised, and that's how I was raising my children. So I think it was super important to show that. Like, you don't see a lot of Black girls. Well, now you do, but prior to Instagram, there weren't a ton of Black women online, like homeschooling their kids and making food from scratch. And I don't, give my kids fast food or any of those things. So, and then also just showing that my husband, and he wasn't my husband at the time, we were actually just together, but was supporting that and supporting me. And I thought it was important to show that dynamic.
Well, I grew up in public housing, and I need to understand before we go any further, how did your mother garden in public housing? Because I just don't know how it works.
So my mom grew up on a farm in northern Ohio, and our family owns land. And when she became pregnant with my oldest brother, her family kind of was like, "Oh, good luck with that." And so she moved to Columbus, Ohio, and she went to Ohio State. And this is obviously in the 70s, so she was like taking my older brother to class with her. But that's all she knew. She grew up raising animals, so she literally fought for the city to accept, like, we had food stamps back then. It wasn't like EBT cards. To the local groceries to accept those. And so she like went downtown, like talked to the city and was like, the only thing that you guys let us get is like, cheese and milk, like unhealthy products.
Mm.
And so the stores started like accepting food stamps, and she would just get like healthy food because that's all she knew. And then she started a community garden like in our backyard, and she would make food. The Nation of Islam was really heavy in our neighborhood, and we grew up like Sunni Muslim.
Mm.
And so obviously, like the way I grew up in Ohio, like they were doing fresh pressed juice. Like on the corner, they were giving you final calls and celery juice and carrot juice. That was like the thing. Like they were very much pushing like a healthy lifestyle. So my mom was like really into that too. So that was just, it was all encompassing. Like she was around a lot of the Nation of Islam, and they created gardens. And we grew up in a really dope neighborhood. Like it was poor, but all the Black people came together and they created a Black bookstore called Each One Teach One. Like it was a thing. We had the Nia Academy where all the moms in the city, they came together and they like created a school that was based off of like Kwanzaa principles
Mm.
essentially. And they raised us to be very pro-Black. I had like amazing childhood,
Wow.
even though I was poor.
So you, he's Asian.
My father's Cambodian, my mother is Caucasian.
She white.
Oh, she
She
white.
white.
There we go.
Okay, so
Cambodian and
white woman.
Caucasian. It's a
right.
white
So it's
woman.
an interracial relationship and a multiracial man, a husband. Chia. All right, y'all. Listen. I feel like all the cultural stuff. There's a whole lot to learn and share and understand about one another and to share with your children, which we'll get to. Tell us how you met.
Oh, it's so ghetto.
I'll let you do it. So the short story is that we were friends before we were dating. So we had a history with like knowing how each other manages their own relationship before us, right?
Oh.
So she knew my ex, I knew her ex. There's a lot more layers to it beyond that, which I don't know if you want to
He
jump into
managed
it.
a rap group, and my ex was in the rap group, guys. Okay, and then my ex cheated on me. It got another girl pregnant with the same name as me, and then we broke up. And then Chia, I moved to New York, and Chia shot his shot, and the rest is history. It was messy.
It's cool. I mean, it is what it is. I don't judge people because I understand that situations just happen, things happen. So I don't judge.
So I just want to. So were you guys always open to dating outside your race, or was it something that happened? It just happened to be a person, or did you ever do it before?
I haven't, but he has.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. So Chia, you had dated Black women before?
No, so I've never dated Black women before, Ashley.
You slept with that biracial girl.
That's different. And I definitely did it. Okay. I didn't date anybody. Like I've never dated a Black woman other than Ashley. But like white women, Latino, Asian women, like
He's been around the road. You've been around. You've been outside for a little while.
there we go.
There you go.
Both of you have not dated people like the other in the past. What makes you say, okay, we're going to try this? At this point, are you Ashley saying, hey, I've tried it all and now I'm ready to, or I've tried my own and I'm ready to figure out something new? Or is it just like a connection that you can't ignore?
I would say it was probably the connection thing. The thing is that she and I were friends 4 years before we dated, so we knew each other. There was a level of comfort there. We worked together, call center, like we had a real relationship. I saw him all of the time. So like I knew his parents. I went to his college graduation party, like as his friend, but I mean like we knew each other. Do you know what I mean? There was a level of safety there. There was a level of comfort there. So my passed away, and then after she died, I moved to New York and started teaching ballet there. And so Chia was just like my friend. He would call me, check on me, see how I was doing. So it started off that way. He used to just, I worked at a school during the day and at a restaurant at night. So he used to just call me like, hey, I just want to make sure you get home safely. And he would talk to me from the train, and I would walk from the train in downtown Brooklyn all the way to like my apartment in Bed-Stuy. And it was like 20 blocks. It was crazy. And it was night. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. He would just be like, I just want to make sure you get home safe. Like, obviously he liked me at this time, but I did not like him like that. I just thought he was super nice. When I came to Ohio, he had purchased a house, and I was like, oh, I'll come back and forth to Ohio all the time because that's where my family was. So I was like, I'm gonna come see your house. And I remember like I went to go see his house, and then he just gave me this weird hug, and his fingers like lingered on my lower back. And I was weirded out. So I started sending on my girls. I was like, go get Chia a hug and see if he hugs you like that. And they was like, nah, he didn't give me no finger lingering hug. So I was like, I think he likes me. And then that turned me off because I was like, yeah, I'm not dating nobody that's not Black. Like, I grew up very pro-Black. Like, love being Black. I'll be like having a Black off with people. Like, who's the Blackest and who knows more about Black history? And I was doing like speeches by Marcus Garvey when I was 5. Like, that is like, I love
Well,
being
you
Black.
said you grew
So for
up
me,
around the Nation of Islam, so right there, I already understand. Same with me. I grew up in Harlem where it was the Nation of Islam. Then we had, of course, the Baptist Church. And then it was just Black folks on the street. So it was just black, 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 black,
mhm,
black, black everywhere all around me. And of course,
yeah.
the Latino community, I never saw them as being different. We were like all
Mhm.
one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. My mom is Afro-Latina, but she will tell you that she is a Black woman. Like,
Hmm.
I don't even know my mom's like cultural history. And so my grandma was like, you do realize that you're Hispanic. And I was like, you're Black. So like that was not a thing for my mom. She was like, I'm a Black girl, I'm Black, that's it.
Hmm.
So for me, it just wasn't a thing. Like, even though him liking me, I was just like, that's never gonna happen. I'm definitely gonna marry somebody that looks like Talib Kweli, that's dark skinned, and we're gonna have like babies and be burning incense and shit. Like, that's we're gonna have dark skinned babies, we'll give them Arabic names. And yeah. So I just was like, that's
She's
cute for
sorry.
you, but I don't want it. And he just was persistently being kind to me. And I remember my mother is the person, she was like, he really likes you. And I was like, I don't like him. And she was like, why? And I was like, because he's not Black. And she was like, that's the only reason. I was like, yeah, I gotta have babies. And she was like, that's very dumb. And she was like, look at my life. She was like, I raised all of you on my own. I was a single mother. And my father has my life. I need to make that clear because if he sees, he will cuss me out. He's been in my life, but he did not raise me. Like, they had joint custody, but my mom raised me. Okay. We all have healed and grown and understood that my mother was there every day. And so for me, she was like, I don't want that for you. If there's someone who loves you and is kind to you and is showing you that they care about you, at least give them a hand, not ignore it because they're not Black.
That's
So I
amazing.
did.
So Chia, so
So cheer.
so what made you want to pursue Ashley?
I think a lot of it was just because of how I knew she managed relationships, so from her friends to like her romantic partner. That to me is what like gave me the level of comfort to understand that we have a lot of things in common, like commonalities beyond, like you mentioned earlier, what made you want to date outside your race? It wasn't like that was the only option, or I had tried all these other things and they never worked. So this is my last resort. Equally for her, like what really attracted me to her is just who she is, like her personality, her values, and the things that we had in common. So I think that that's always been the driving force around like our relationship started an odd way, being prior relationships, um, meeting long before we were pregnant, moving in together. Like our relationship definitely has a lot of anomalies.
Hmm.
And I think what's tough is that, like doing these interviews and kind of being like a spokesperson or spokespeople for interracial relationships, like that, it's a little bit odd too. You know what I mean? It's kind of like me being the only male son in my family. Like you're a golden child to an extent, and you never really want to be a poster child, but
Right.
those are some things that happen, right? Um, so I think what's really tough about this is that, we want to be representative of like a resource, right? And providing information or like just telling our story. But I think what's really important is like take what you need from our conversation. And like you mentioned earlier about the DMs and some people saying, I agree with this, but I don't agree with blank.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going to get this from us.
Mm.
And I think we share very transparently and we share like in a real way where I may say something that you don't completely agree with, but there may be a morsel that you're like, okay, cool, I resonate with that. And I think that that's where like we really just try to drive home the idea of like the story is what it is, and hopefully you could find something that's relevant to you that you can, parlay into your relationship or your life or whatnot.
I think of it as fish in a pond, and somehow you just find one another, even though you may have already been there, but then somehow you come together. So I think that's a beautiful thing. But I imagine, I mean, I listened to you, Ashley, saying that your mom was like, go for it. How did your family feel, Chia? And was there any resistance in your families at all? Both of you can answer this question. And did you feel embarrassed, or were you like, we don't care, we're going forward?
You know what? It's actually really crazy because the Asian side of my family, there was a lot of resistance. And I think there's a lot of reasons for it. I think just keeping it very simple, there was resistance because she was Black. And like from a Cambodian household, I think they expected that I would marry a Cambodian woman, or like just not a Black woman, honestly. And I think that was a part of it. But what also made it more difficult is that when she was reintroduced, to my family as like my partner, she was pregnant at the time. So like it's a lot, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a lot to unpack. On my mom's side of the family, like the white side of my family, it's weird because I wouldn't say that there was resistance. There was like an intention to accept, but there's a lot of still just natural like ignorance and just
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of hurdles, right, on both sides of the family, and to an extent, we were kind of like, listen, this is just what it is. Like we're pregnant, we're fully committed to this relationship, and it was kind of like we're going to be insulated and protect what we have. And if y'all like are with us, then you're with us, and if not, it is what it is. But we still kept going around, like we still kept being present. That was a tough time in our relationship.
Yeah, it was like a tough 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh my!
It wasn't like,
10 years.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a process.
there were people who were very supportive on both sides. Like his cousin Sapia and Pete, like we had our at their house, those are his on his Asian side. They were always supportive. And his dad, it's weird because his dad was like not supportive, but supportive. And he like always would show up, like he never missed a birthday party for our daughter. He would never not invite us to anything for the holidays. Like it was such a weird experience because then his wife did not agree with it. His stepmom, she's Asian. So that's the other thing. Like his parents divorced, they both remarried their own people. So like he remarried an Asian woman and she remarried somebody white. And they were like, I'm going back to my own. And his dad is very Asian. He moved here during the Vietnam War. I can look at it from a different lens, which I'm grateful for. But when it was happening to me, it just felt like racism. It's just racism. And they just hate me because I'm Black, right? And part of it was because I was Black. That's not the only, but it's not the only factor, right? The other thing, like he said, we were 24, we weren't married. They met me as someone else's girlfriend. They're re-meeting me again as his girlfriend, and I'm pregnant. We've only been together for a month. And if you're a parent and your child comes home with some girl who's pregnant, you're like,
What is
ain't that
going
somebody
on
else's
here?
girl?
Yeah. Like what
This is
what kind of
ghetto.
mess
Yeah.
have you
This is
gotten
mess.
yourselves into?
He's the only son. So it is important in
Wow.
their culture. His dad lost all of
carry
his,
on the
most of
culture,
his
yeah.
siblings in the Vietnam War. So when he moved here with his sister, his dad and his aunt, and she had her kids, like their family is very close. Their culture is very important to them. And so preserving that culture is very important to his father.
The white side of your family, Chia, how did that all play out?
Again, they were very supportive, but also like when you support something and you don't know anything about it, right? Like they just want to be supportive because they know it's the right thing to do, but because you don't have experience, like, you don't know anything about her or like the Black culture or anything like that. There's just a lot
Very
of,
awkward moments. Very
whether we
awkward.
call it ignorance or racism,
Yeah.
like there's a lot. That was more of an amicable experience than it was on the Asian side of my family.
Mm.
That's the thing that sucks about this whole thing. Like his family has never done anything to harm me, his white family, right? Like they've always welcomed me in their home, never would treat me differently. Were trying to understand me, understand the fact that I didn't eat pork, that I didn't eat any of the stuff that they ate. And they would just be like, "Do you want some candy?" Like, like they were trying. They love our daughters, but they all voted for Trump. And so like even when that happened, it caused a fracture in all of our relationships because I stopped going over there. And I was just like, I'm out. Like, I don't want to participate. I want to talk to y'all. It was hurtful to me because they just couldn't understand. I'm like, you can't say that you love me and love my daughter and vote for somebody like that. And
Right.
they cannot, it just was not computing.
Yeah.
And it
So
was hard. It was hard because I loved them genuinely, but like I could not stomach. I just couldn't do it.
has
I
there
was
been a
like,
reckoning with that? Have you guys like mended anything since that, or has it still been fractured?
for Chia and I, we have a rule. Like, I don't believe in him not talking to his family, even if I don't agree with them. So like he's always talked to his family. I just like dip in and out. So I don't think there's any mending for him. But for me, when his grandmother passed away recently, that was like I felt bad because his grandmother's so loving, right? And she's to FaceTime us all the time and be like, "I love you, Ashley. You're so beautiful. You're such a good mom." Like she's like love, And I'm just learning and understanding so much just about the human brain and how people process and understand culture, and it's just a lot. That's like a whole nother podcast episode. There has been mending, like obviously, like I was around and I speak to them. I just think it's just it's still awkward. It's like an undertone where everyone knows that like I'm not with it. Do you know what I mean? But my daughters, people would probably disagree, but it's important for me for with them. So like there's never been a shift for them. Like they always go over there. They always just go with him. I just wouldn't go. Like every time we go to Ohio, he goes to his grandmother's house and he's with his family and he takes all of our kids. I just don't go.
It's funny you said that, you are learning so much about the human mind, like, and how people process things and cultures, because when you really love someone and you're attempting to find ways to be together or to build something together, you got to go that deep in order to be able to stay. It's like I got to get all deep so I can understand things that's outside of and beyond us, because there's so many other elements. It's deep that you said that, because that shows real intention, I think, for you to be able to process it. But I agree with you that I could not be involved with anybody. First of all, the idea of me dating a white male is like a never for me, right? I'm like how you started. It's just like never, ever. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine, having sex with a white man. I just can't imagine it. But I also think that, maybe because of things that people have put in my head to make me believe that if I do it, I'm selling out or I'm whatever, that might be more of the reason than actually my real, like, innermost deep feelings about it. And so, like you said, getting in touch with, like, how my mind is working, what's influencing me, what do I really, really want out of life. That's a hard thing to come up against. I really look at y'all, and the way that you're able to speak so freely, that's one of the things that has been a barrier for me, because I am super duper black, and I'm gonna say things that white folks around me might not like. It might make them feel uncomfortable. So for me to just be out here saying, like, look at these white people, like, just look at what white people do. You know what I mean? How can I say that in the bed with the white man? Like, yo, your people, bruh, get your people.
But I do. I think the thing that I love about Chia is that he knew that about me already. So I think that's the thing. I always tell my friends too, like, when you look at your friends, I swear, maybe your husband is your friend, because I feel like the facade is gone. Like, he already knew who I was in totality. Like, I would say that to white people. I would go to work like, something wrong with y'all. Like, why y'all act like this? Like, he already knows that I'm a Capricorn and I have issues with saying things
Filter,
nicely.
yeah,
This is a problem
You
for
ain't
me. I'm
got no
working on
filter.
it. I'm in therapy.
Don't work on it.
But
I mean, it makes you, like, both of you are very relatable. And the way that you're coming across
It's a balance.
Yeah.
There's a perfect balance, right? Because he's the calm and you the storm, right? He knows how to just let you do you, and he knows how to calm you. Like, you can just see that there's a balance there, So
yeah.
what I want to before I'm gonna
No,
cut
I'm
you
not
off,
saying
but I
that.
want to know. So I hear a lot of the stuff that you experienced with his family. Like, what has he experienced with your family
Yeah,
that was
chill.
kind of negative?
Listen, it's not even fair. Like the way that this partnership and the things that she has had to endure and experience, it's not comparable. I mean, I was met with pure love, like, and also a different type of love that actually, like, I didn't experience growing up, right? Like, they're very affectionate, like, very physically, like, showing their love. So the one thing that I'll say is, like, comparatively, there's no comparison. Like, there was never any resistance. It was like full acceptance. It's like you're a part
That
of the
is
family,
so
right?
interesting to me. I mean, I get the issues with the Asian family side and the white family side. I get it. But usually, like, black folks, soon as you be like, I'm dating a white, they be like, she out here with a white boy. Look at her.
So
Just,
so here's the thing is that it is that simple, but there's also still like an element too with
Of
her
love.
father as well, like where he really felt a way because for him, like, he's a black man that
That's right.
that that raised Ashley to like love herself, right? And also when he sees that she was dating me, it's like, well, like, don't you love me, right? Like, as in her father, like, don't you love black men too? Like, what's
wow.
happening here?
So my dad is dark. He's from Tennessee. He's like very black. And he grew up in segregation. Like, and he don't like white people for real. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not for real, for real. And so my dad, he
It's
used to be
okay.
like,
It's okay.
like, if white people were
He
walking
got
across the
he
street,
has
he was like, I'm
reason. He
see
has
that.
reason. If
Like,
he from Tennessee, a dark skinned black man from Tennessee has reason not to like white
Yeah.
people.
has a lot of pain. His dad loves me so much that he loves Chia. And he tells me all the time, I'll never forget. When I gave birth to our daughter, my dad came to the hospital, remember, in his work uniform, because my dad just been working my whole life. I've literally never seen him outside his work uniform except for like a funeral and a graduation. So he came to the hospital in his work uniform and he looks in the room and I'm like, Dad, come in. And he comes in for a minute and then he's like, oh, I gotta go back to work. I was like, nigga, you're not gonna stay? Like, you're my dad. Like, he was like, you're safe. That's all I needed to know. He was like, I never have to worry about you. And my dad literally calls me all the time and would be like, it's just interesting to see a 60-something-year-old black man from Tennessee be so soft and gentle. I love that for him. But he's just like, I love Chia. And he tells me this all the time because he's like, I see how happy you are, how good of a father he is. And he's just like, I love him so much because you're so happy. And that's all my dad cares about. He just wants me to be happy.
Well,
That's
let's go
beautiful.
to the children
I was about to
because
say that too.
that's the part. So, what is it like raising them, and then you being super black?
The thing, like, with the children side of thing is I feel like relative, right? Like I will tell you without a doubt that even the hometown that I grew up in, it's still, I don't know. I mean, I would say 90% white.
Mm-hmm.
So, like to say that the kids are growing up, you know, with a lot of different exposures to different ethnicities and different cultures. Like on one hand, that's true, right? But I think it just depends on where you are. Like in LA, cool. You know, you definitely have a lot of exposure. In some parts in some different parts of the country, you don't. But where they do get the exposure, right, it's from the phone, it's from the internet, and I think the big thing that's missing there is you're experiencing it from the phone and you're learning from afar. You're not learning from being in it.
Mm.
And I think that that's like a big difference between like our generation and our younger generation, like our children, is that we experienced a lot of life together outside. Like we experienced those key moments in our young adulthood and in our adult life together. And that's where we had the commonalities. And I think especially with our oldest daughter, like she's experiencing a lot of things, some in real time. So it's like a false experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, because
Um,
now and they're homeschooled, so that makes it. So what do you guys do to bring to
To add that reality
yeah.
feel to their life.
I just homeschool them until they get to high school because that's what my mom did for me. My mom actually homeschooled me, a bunch of my friends. Then we all went to public school and high school. I just feel like those younger years are super important and you can like instill your value system into them. And then once they get to high school, I don't know, it's just like you kind of shape them instead of like the school system. And plus, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not letting the white people teach my kids. So there's that. But I so Amira is like, she's in theater, she's in all of the things. And she was in activities when she was homeschooled. And so are our kids. Like they're in Debbie Allen's dance school. I mean, that's predominantly black, but there's like white students there, but they are in a lot of different activities and that they know a lot of our friends' kids. And so they have a lot of that social aspect and the ability to like meet other kids and do other things. And we travel. And so there's like a lot of real life experience that way. And then also the fact that they have a white grandmother, an Asian grandfather, a Hispanic grandmother, and a black grandfather. Like they just gotta go in one corner, they can get a little different cultural experience quick.
No, that's beautiful.
Well, we're winding down, but I wanna ask for folks who are listening in because it sounds so great. Other than the family issues, that happen, but as long as when you go in your house and close your door, things are good. You can probably make it through most things. So I want to ask you for folks who are listening that we don't want them to get the wrong impression that this is just beautiful and it's just wonderful because life is challenging in general. What is one thing you can say that was difficult for you to overcome about your partner? Is specifically because of their ideas or cultural issues? Like, what's one thing that was really hard to get past?
I would say actually the one of the most difficult things just is how we communicate our challenges. Meaning, like I come at it from a very like logical, pointed, like low energy conversation. And for her, like everything isn't high energy, but it's definitely more than what I'm putting into it. So it's like if there's an argument, it's just going to get higher and higher. And to me, like I'm not going to bring myself to that level of like energy because it gets uncontrollable, right? And I think that's the biggest disconnect. This is just how we manage our normal emotions. Like her normal emotions are just at a higher level than mine. Like it just is what it is. Um, so I think that it has nothing to do with her being black or me being, white and Asian. Like I think that that's
Oh
just a
yes, it
challenge within our
does. Oh
I
relationship.
was
yes, it
about to say
does.
that too.
Oh yes, it does. We us black women, we pops off when we want to. Okay. Oh yes, it does. Trust me, I know exactly. When you said it, that was a very honest answer because I could see you being like, "Can't we just discuss this?" And her being like, "No, that is nothing to discuss," because she is me and I am her. So.
God bless you.
I
No,
mean, you know what? It is crazy because it is a cultural thing and it is a gender thing a little bit. Like a lot of my husbands would probably have the same sentiment as Chia, but then equally, his family, his culture is very calm. Like his dad literally was like, "Why must you yell? Why must you discuss things? Just let it go and it'll heal on its own." And I'm like, "What? No, we're gonna talk about this." But I would say for me, probably the same thing. I'm an emotional person. I am. Like I definitely, that is just like part of my personality. I am an empath. I have a lot of feelings and I emote them. And I think it's what makes me a great person, but it's also been sometimes to the detriment of me. And I have like visceral physical reactions to like racism. Like it just like unhinged me a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably the most important thing is that like when things are happening in this world, like I cry, I get upset, I come in the house, it can change my mood. I'm just like, he's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "What do you mean what's wrong? You see America?" Like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's hard because Chia, this is what I have learned. And let me tell you something, even if you don't date nobody white or that's not black, just being around them, you just get to see and understand like why they don't get it. Like it is this is how I look at it. I look at it like, when we were growing up, they used to always show children starving in Africa. It was like a thing, right? And
Yeah.
they would be like, "Oh, we'll feed the kids." You know how we would react to it. We would look at it and be like, "That is so sad." Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
would send some money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just go on about your day.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe sometimes your parents would say stuff like, "If you don't eat your food, there's kids starving in Africa." And you'll be like, "Oh, okay." It did not move you. We
Mm.
weren't moving to Africa and going to Africa and like fighting the war or trying to help feed all
Mm.
these kids. That is literally how white people feel about racism.
Mm.
They like look at black people being shot, they look at police brutality, and they're like, "That is so sad.
Mm. Wow.
What,
Yeah.
where do I send money?"
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
And that's it.
Sometimes.
because it's not a lived experience. It's not really
Oh,
something that you can identify with. When you're a good moral person and you're just a good natured person, you see wrong and you don't want wrong to happen to anybody. But when you never really experience it and you don't have this deep understanding of it, you can't even identify with it. And and that's a good point, right? And I think for most people, that's why they don't think interracial relationships work, because the
yep.
main thing that you hear people say is, you can't identify with my struggle. You can't really identify with my reality, so you can't be my lifetime partner.
Mm.
What do you guys say to somebody who says that?
Yeah, this is the last word
Yeah.
too. So give us that advice that, in terms of that, people who are like, it's no way that you can identify with me, my children. You can't. You just don't understand my experience.
I mean, they're not going to be able to. So there's that. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be okay with that. But the one thing that I would say is that I have such beautiful, rich relationships with so many black men. My best friend is a black man. I have a lot of male black best like friends, close friends, my brothers. And so I also realized, and this is just relationship advice in general, your partner is not your everything. They're not your source of all things. And
Mm.
so the same way as a woman, when you call your girlfriends and you need to connect with them because your husband just doesn't get it. He's never going to get it. He's never going to have a vagina, a period, doesn't understand what it feels like, never going to have had a baby. He will never relate to you. He can only just sympathize. You know what I mean? Have a little empathy. He will never know what it's like to feel a contract. That's never going to happen. And yet, we still date men, and yet we still partner with them. So it is the same thing. Sometimes you have to outsource that support. What's important is that Chia is a learner. He's always going to be there. He's always going to support. He's always going to participate in anything that's for uplifting. Like we own a home in Ohio. We only rent it to black people. Like he understands. He's not going to be a part of like the problem. You know what I mean? He's definitely a part of the solution, but he's not going to ever be black. So he can only understand but so much. And it's actually okay with me. It saved my marriage. Like when I need to have those real, like I could come home and be like, "White people getting on my nerves." He doesn't care about any of that. Like he understands I'm going to say that. It's never going to stop happening. Um, but when I really need to connect deeply, I talk to my black friends about those experiences. That's the same thing I feel when I need to connect deeply about a feminine like issue. I talk to my friends like he loves me, but he's still not gonna get it. Like,
Mm.
so I just think that people have to keep that in mind. Like your partner, it's not their job to be your everything. That's why we have friends. That's why we have parents, and that's literally okay. And I feel like our marriage is really healthy and happy because we do not depend on one another to be our source
Everything.
of all things.
That's
Like,
real.
But it
Wow.
is your partner's role to grow, like
yeah,
to have an intention to continue to grow and evolve and understand and like push me just as much as I push you. So I think that that's where
yeah,
like you can't stop. But again, like that's not specific to any one type of relationship.
yeah.
Mm.
Um, the one thing that I was going to say is this is something that we're done having children, right? We have four girls, but whether they were four boys, four girls, or otherwise, like we're done with kids. Um, but what's crazy, and I always think about this, and we've had conversations like, listen, it's different raising girls than it is boys. And especially if we ever did have a son, we're raising a black son in America. And that's something
Would have
that
been that's the a
I can
thing.
raise a son, right? But there's just different levels of understanding and like it's a completely different undertaking. And that's something that we actually talked a lot about where again, like I can provide as much that I can and I could be as understanding as I want to and I could talk about, what I've seen and what I've understood, but I can't talk about what I've experienced because I'm not a black man, right?
Mm.
And I think that that's where, we had conversations like that is a role that she has to take on that like our extended family takes on as well because it's such an important learning that I just can't build on.
Mm.
Wow, that's real.
Wow.
Well,
You.
I just want to
Oof.
say that I commend you guys, and I definitely see the energy and the synergy that you have, and I notice and I understand that relationships have to have balance, and it's like a yin and a yang. You know, he's the calm, you the storm, and then when y'all come together, it forms Voltron. So, continue to love each other, continue
Mm-hmm.
to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy for you
Yeah,
guys.
I same. I think this episode will give people something else, another perspective to look at, and to look at two people. The thing about the two of you is that you are exactly what I would expect, like a black woman singularly, and a white slash Asian man to be like singularly,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly. It's not like two people that are that are
bougie
bougie and like
and
it's not like
trying to be black.
a bougie black woman with
Yeah.
a white man that and she just capitulates to the culture of white
Right,
culture or
exactly.
Yep.
a white guy that's trying to be black and he got him
Getting on my nerves.
so it's just y'all actually who you are and it's loving just to see that you love each other exactly as
As
you
you
are.
are. That's right. Loving one another exactly as you are, successfully. So thanks, y'all.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Watermelon and egg rolls. That was an excellent interview.
It really was good. I mean, I learned a lot. I'm still
Yeah.
probably not going to date a white man, but it won't be because I have not, through them, seen an example of something that could actually work.
See, that's what I say about relationships in general, right? People always say, I'm not dating this or I want this. And the reality is, when you find whatever it is, that's what it is.
Yeah, but you can't find something that you're unwilling
But
to
that's
even
but
see.
that's not true because that lady was unwilling to
But
see
he was
that.
there.
But that's what I'm
But
trying to
that's what I'm trying
say.
to say. He was in her life.
Yeah,
I'm trying to tell you that you tell me which white man is in my life.
that's what I'm trying to tell you. So you saying there's no white man
That
in
was
your
her friend.
exactly. But you haven't met a white man as your friend.
That's my
So
point.
that's what I'm
And
trying
what
to
I'm
tell
trying to
you.
tell
It
you is
doesn't
I
mean that
avoid it.
no, it's not that you avoid. It's just there's no reason. Like, boom. Say for instance, Jason Flom. He's the somebody that you communicate with about Pierre Russian. So y'all communicating with. If this happens to be some synergy, balance, y'all talking. He meets up with you. I want to do this interview. I want you to do this. He makes you laugh a couple of times. He starts flirting with you. Like I'm not, but he's cool. So you like I'm not looking. Something grows from that. You don't know. That's what I'm trying to say.
But
The-
can I just say one thing about me, right? Like I've been living a long time, and she was 24 years old when this all happened, or maybe earlier than that. What I'm saying is, I don't avoid white men because I have many white men that I have to deal with, talk to, work with, work for, or they work for me. I have all of that, right? What I'm saying is that my relationships with them is not even friendly enough for it to get to the point where they probably are saying to themselves, she's a nice person, but I don't fuck with her.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you, because it's not the white man or the man for you. It's just like
Okay,
anybody else.
that's
There's a lot
fair.
of, because the reality is you have the same kind of relationships with black men.
Not necessarily.
black
More
men
of
that
them
you-
feel they can
But
toe
even
the
if they
line
step
and
like they
walk
toe the
over
line,
it.
they don't really get.
They don't
much.
really care.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to tell you. So that's what I'm trying to say is, I think a lot of people's minds are closed because they're looking for something to look a certain way, right? And I don't think relationships or love looks away. It just happens. It just is, and it
But it
comes.
can look like a black man and black woman
It
being
can.
together.
I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm saying ideally that's what it is, right? But I'm saying that in real life that's not always what it is. Ideally,
I agree with
and
that.
that's
I
what
don't look down
I
on
think that's
people
what
for
happens.
it.
What they found out is that love for us looks different.
You know what? Listen, you're 100% right. There, for all of us, I think there have been situations that have happened that you would have never, ever, 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 ever even imagined you would find yourself in. So I get that. I'm just saying that from where I sit, I still and I do believe, like, I'm being very honest. I think it was a very honest and vulnerable conversation. I am being honest in saying that a part of it would probably be that I would just be unwilling because I don't even want the harassment
That comes
that
with
I
it.
would have to endure from family members to people in my life to people online. Like, it would just be so
It might be
catastrophic.
that,
And so that's a sad thing
but you know
because
what the thing is? I think most people think that until they actually find a person, and then the love supersedes all the stuff that they got to go through. I know people are in relationships and have been in situations they've said they would never be in, because whatever it is that person provided for them superseded all of the shit that they said it didn't want to deal with. So that's what I'm trying. All I'm trying to tell you is,
Mice,
you don't. The bottom line is, we don't know.
you're right. But
Nobody
but all
knows.
I can say is that I'm willing, with a black man, right? I could go through all types of things and just have to deal with it. But I don't know if I want to deal with people saying, like, how can you be not just a black woman who's super black, but a black woman who is an organizer, who is out here fighting for the justice and freedom and equity and rights that we as black people
Dr.
deserve.
Umar will have a ball
And
with
then
this.
I'm over here
Dr. Umar will look
with
at
a
you
white
like
man.
this.
I'm not sure. But again, I would say that Ashley certainly put into perspective
Because
for
she
me
seems
how
like
you
that.
can just show up and be that. I don't think that there are many Cheas.
He's her balance, because she's like that too, and he seems to be the balance, the calm that calms her down. So
Oh well, it works for them. And what they say is, if you like it, I love it. So that's it for that.
that's
But-
that on that. So that brings me to my I don't get it. What I don't get is, why do people get mad at other people's opinions? Why do you want to try to change someone's opinion about what they think about something? You can't change. Like, I have conversations with people and they'll tell you their opinion, and then you tell you theirs, and they be like, that's stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. Da, da, da. I see it all the time, especially in comment sections on Instagram. Like, the most annoying shit. Write a post about what I think, and then somebody come over there, oh, this is stupid. You a hater. No, this is
That's
what
why
I
they
think.
do it, because you think it's annoying, and then you do go
But
back and forth with them.
But I do, because I be confused. Why do you think your opinion of my opinion is going to change my opinion?
I don't know why it's confusing. People live their lives being, what do you call it, contrarian. That's it. That's from the
it.
morning to the night. That's what they do. The best way to not be confused is to know that they're going to be there and just ignore them.
I think when I respond to somebody, I have to think that what you said is worthy of a response, right? Because it's a million
Not
people
when you
saying
tell
the
people
same-
to go to the Frank stand.
Oh, yeah,
That's unnecessary.
Oh, no, because that when you come there just for disrespect, then yeah, I'm gonna go and send you to the Frank stand, man. Get you 1,000 francs, man.
Such a waste of
It's
your
not.
energy. You are arguing with somebody.
No argument.
who
Telling
lives-
somebody to go to the Frank stand takes
I mean,
2
but
seconds.
I don't even. But you know what?
It
When
literally
I
takes
say
2
go to
seconds.
the Frank store, or whatever, I would say some whole other. That's again, I'm like homegirl. When I say what I say, it ain't no Frank stand. I'm telling you. I'm just saying. When I don't even want you to see your name or your little fake Instagram name copied again
No, I
from
do it
me.
because I know once I write that, then there's gonna be a million people that you could dial. Because my it's a war zone on my page. So once I respond to you and tell you to go to Frank stand, then Aya's gonna come. Then about 20, 30 more people gonna come and tell you,
Yeah,
get off
y'all
this
got too
page,
much time
and
on
they
your
gonna cuss
hands.
you out, and they gonna call you every name.
Even if I'm
for
doing
2 weeks
nothing,
straight.
even if I'm doing nothing, even if I'm not thinking about all the things, my fitness, my this, my that, and third, and I'm just sitting in my house doing nothing, my nothing is better than your something. I refuse to continue, and I'm
And
not
I
saying,
respect it.
and I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it, because everybody, some days people catch you and you just in the mood for a good or not in the mood, which is a whole different thing. But I don't want you to get a 2 from me. Like, I don't want you to get a mention from me
No,
because that's
sometimes,
what you want.
but there are people that I feel like that about. It's like, I realize you just a troll, you just looking. But then there's some people that I feel like you might need to go to Frank's stand. Then there's some people that I feel like they have legitimate,
Well, I'm
contrary
all for that.
advice. So I have a dialogue with
I'm all
those
for
people.
that.
But for the most part, I ignore most people.
That is a you thing.
I love the high road.
trying.
And sometimes I take the high road, and then sometimes I send you to the Frank stand.
That's true. I do too. So I'm
mean,
saying I'm talking a lot of
Yeah,
because sometimes you be like, why you gotta even
Yeah, because
just
I see you
shut
too. Like, I
up?
see you, I'll be like, oh, she done wrote a whole paragraph. Somebody done pissed her off.
Well,
today.
paragraphs I think are different. The only reason why I do reply sometimes to trolls or people who are trolling, right, is because what Ashley said is so true in the interview that I can't sit there and look at my social media and say, well, because I'm not getting enough engagement or people don't really like it, when history is recalled, oh, well, I didn't say anything because my Instagram numbers or because I almost got kicked off of social media. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
So that is when I will respond. But when you come on a man came on my page the other day and said, are you self-taught or do you have a degree? And I sat there and got ready to, I had I put the thing together. I was in the shower thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back there and say, I have a degree, I'm mentored, and I'm self-taught. Like, cause I was going to say, and then I said, why the hell do I have to explain myself to you? First of all, put your credentials on the table.
Joe Blow.
The fuck?
You was about to talk to Joe
Baby,
Blow.
I was getting, because I felt like I needed to defend myself.
What do you
but
mean?
why?
I do that sometimes. Somebody who's, because we defensive.
No, my son.
We sensitive about our shit. I am.
You be going back.
I mean,
and forth.
certain shit you just can't, you can't say to me. It ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work for you. Because in real life, it ain't gonna work for you. So I don't want you to get. I don't
You
want.
said it's not real. You tell me that all the time.
That's what I'm. But I know it's not real. So I don't. What I don't want is somebody to get the wrong idea there and think that because you see that happen there that you could try it in real life. Because it's some people that's in real life and they'll see people disrespect you in this and just feel like, oh, that don't work with me. It's gonna be consequences and repercussions because I give respect that I demand. So, we can have dialogue and we can disagree. And we can go back and forth. I listen to your point, you listen to my point. But when it teeters on disrespect, it's just like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. Either I'm going to completely separate myself from the situation or I'm going to tell you the Frank stand. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And with that, we've come to the end of another episode of TMI. We appreciate y'all for making us the #1 podcast in the nation. Right?
Nice, son. When you always look at me because
want
you
you
know
to-
that I know that we should say that we're
No,
building it
listen
to be.
to him.
It
We
will
are
be. It
the
shall
#1.
be.
We are the #1 podcast in the nation. We appreciate y'all. Send us all your comments to TMI posts. TMI pod.
It's TMI.
And when you close out, make sure you look at the
The middle. Okay.
TMI_show. Okay. Good.
Send all of your
The
requests.
main camera.
No, she said when I close out.
When it's over.
Yeah, when I go say I'm not gonna. I'm gonna say
okay,
no.
cool.
I'm
Okay.
say right and all that. Yeah. So make sure that you go to TMI _show. Okay. Make sure that you go to TMI_show to live.
At TMI_show.
Make sure you go to our TMI Instagram page. Follow TMI on Instagram. That's what I'm gonna say. Make sure you follow TMI on Instagram. Leave comments. DM us about any topics you want to hear about. Let us know if you love us. Let us know if you hate us. You know, we want to get all of the
Save the
feedback.
hate. Save the hate.
No, give us the hate because I feed off the hate. Give it
That's
to
what
me.
I'm trying to say.
Give me the hate so I
This
can
is the
so I
problem.
can turn it to
And-
fuel.
Voila.
Turn it to fuel because we the number one podcast in the world. And I'm not gonna always be right. Tamika's not gonna always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, be
That's how we
Peace.
own it. That's how we own it. That's how we own it. Oh, that's how we own it.
Check out the video version of TMI.
Every single Wednesday on iWoman.tv.
That's how we own it.